let's move this conversation forward, but stick with the same topic. And Leo, you're going to start this one. So my question is, and we're just guessing, but when do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to return and play his next game with the 49ers? Same topic, but a different way to look at it.
It's going to be against the Rams. Nick Mullins has to have a completely terrible game to make Jimmy Garoppolo play against the Dolphins. I don't see that happening against the Eagles defense. So Nick Mullins is going to continue to have a good game Sunday, and that's going to lead him into starting against the Dolphins, because why are you going to risk your $27 million quarterback a little early than he should be to play against the Dolphins when you could rest him up and play a division opponent like the Los Angeles Rams? I think that's when his game's going to be.
Okay.
Before I address that question, I just want to acknowledge I misspoke when talking about my free agents going on my little rant. Jalen Ramsey signed a $100 million contract extension.
Of course.
In September, yes. So he's off the table. So I misspoke on that part. My apologies. But talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, if Leo's talking about him starting against against the Rams week 6, if we go Nick Mullins 3 consecutive weeks, how do you start? And he's hot. And Nick Mullins is hot after 3 weeks. How do you go with Jimmy Garoppolo against a division opponent who you're going to be competing with the playoff spot against? So that's why I'm talking about. That's how I'm saying that this has a lot of potential to truly turn into a quarterback controversy. I'm a believer in Jimmy Garoppolo. He's already gotten this team to the Super Bowl and was 6-7 minutes away from winning it.
Good player.
You can't ignore and turn a blind eye to what Nick Mullins is accomplishing just because you have a $27 million quarterback in Garoppolo. So if he can, as soon as he's healthy, you should get it.
You got muted, Leo. You had your turn. We'll get back to you in a minute. Keep going, Nick.
So that's just where I'm at, though. Like, how could you start Jimmy Garoppolo against the Rams coming off 3 weeks rest where he's cold if Mullins is just absolutely on fire?
So answer the question. When's he coming back?
When's he coming back? He's coming back next week against the Dolphins because he feels the pressure. He feels Nick Mullins behind him.
Interesting.
And he wants to play.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go against the Dolphins next week as long as there's no chance of re-injury. There's no sense in risking or having a big risk in sending him out against the Dolphins. But it's also a bit of an ask to send Garoppolo out there against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I think that's a tough matchup for Garoppolo coming off of a couple weeks off. So I would go against the Dolphins. There's also a possibility they get out early on the Dolphins and you can take the whole fourth quarter off for Garoppolo with Mullins in there and just keep both guys in.
Before I get my answer, Leo, do you want to go? I muted you.
I was just going to say, obviously, they're on different tiers at their position, and that's with George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, different tiers. But it's like saying Ross Dwelly had a fantastic game against the Giants, run blocking as well as receiving. So now are we going to bench George Kittle and save his cap number as well in the future and trade him for 2 first-round picks? So I'm just playing devil's advocate at this point. It's just looking at it, it's Jimmy Garoppolo's the better player, and that's where they're going to stick to at such a pivotal position.
I'm with Nick, though, that I don't think you can definitively say which player is better. One guy's had 9 career starts. The other guy's had 30. I mean, with quarterbacks, I think you need to get into the 60s, the 70s. I mean, really, we're still learning about Derek Carr. We're still learning about Kirk Cousins. These guys aren't necessarily – it's hard to say who's better. Jimmy Garoppolo's more experienced. He's a better athlete. He's seen more coverages. Nick Mullins is younger. He hasn't had a torn ACL. He has things going for him, too. He's a smarter player, a higher football IQ. They both have strengths. It's just an interesting situation. But real quick, let me answer this question. When do I think Jimmy's coming back? As I said earlier, I think Jimmy would be playing Sunday night against the Eagles if Mullins had bombed. I do. He finished that first half against the Jets. It's a serious injury, but I think he could play through it if he had to. I'm not saying he's malingering. I just think if he had to, he'd play through it. So what I'm thinking is, I don't want to get inside Jimmy's head, but I just think he's going to come back whenever Mullins has a bad game. Whenever Mullins has a bad game, if that happens, it could be this Sunday, it could be a month from now. But if Mullins keeps going out and winning and throwing for 300 yards and a quarterback rating of 108, we're not going to see Jimmy. Jimmy's going to have an injury. Jimmy's going to be sore. Jimmy's going to be rehabbing. But if Nick Mullins has a stinker and they lose to the Eagles, then Jimmy's going to be right back out on that field the week after. That's how I see it. They'll bring him back when they need him and not a minute before. Nick, is that fair?
Yeah, and one thing to add, just to kind of disagree with what Leo said about Ross Dwelly and George Kittle is that Nick Mullins is way more accomplished than Ross Dwelly. No offense to Grant, but go back to 2018. He has the second most passing yards behind Patrick Mahomes in his first 9 career starts.
That's a legit stat. I mean, come on, give the guy some credit.
Legit stat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Mullins. I'm not trying to be like negative. Like, I like Nick Mullins, but him and Jimmy is just two completely steps on the ladder. They just don't match up like we're talking about here. So you're gonna go with the higher step on the ladder, which is clearly Jimmy Garoppolo.
Why is it clearly Jimmy Garoppolo? What is it about him physically?
Physically? Well, I think he could take on the pressure more. That big problem is the interior offensive line, and we've seen so many times he has that chemistry, or he's able to get that ball right on target with pressure right in his face with his quick release. Last week we saw Mullins had to go down and take a seat because he doesn't have that same quick release like Jimmy Garoppolo has.
Well, it seemed like the pressure got to Jimmy Garoppolo in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. He took a lot of hits in that game, and then when the game was on the line, he just wasn't the same. Anyway, I think
the pressure got to the whole team.
Fair enough. And I don't want to put you on the spot like you're Jimmy Garoppolo's defense attorney. And I don't want to gang up on you because you're making good points, Leo.
I'm going to send a text right now.
I have one more thing. My
phone's
this randomly crossed my mind this morning as I get myself so riled up talking about Nick Mullins. Does Nick Mullins win the game against the Saints in New Orleans last year?
No.
I don't think he does. That was Jimmy Garoppolo's brightest moment, and I don't know if Nick Mullins has that.
It's an impossible question to answer, dude.
Well, it's an impossible. Hypothetically, if Nick Mullins is in that situation, does he come through the same way Jimmy Garoppolo came through? Does he handle the gauntlet of the stretch that the same way going back to last year how Garoppolo handled it?
We don't know.
We don't know. You're right.
We're going to find out.
My opinion, I don't think he beats the Rams in their second matchup last season where Jimmy Garoppolo had to make 2 amazing 3rd and 16 conversions with pressure right in his face. That's kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to pressure in his face and the advantage of having such a quick release.